What is going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from different comic book companies. This time, we're going to jump back over to Marvel Comics and cover the Venom story that a lot of people have been asking me to do, and I guess I will finally do it. This is Venom Lethal Protector. This was the first miniseries from Marvel for Venom, where Marvel was really trying to capitalize on how popular Venom and symbiotes were back in the 1990s. But anyways, if you do like today's comic book video, please hit that like button down below, subscribe for more content to come in the near future. But I do hope you enjoy today's video. So in the opening pages of the Lethal Protector book, we quickly pick up with Venom. Of course, this time it was Eddie Brock in San Francisco. Now, if you are wondering why Venom is in San Francisco, well, in a previous story, Venom and Spider-Man had made a deal to leave each other alone. Venom went to San Francisco to get a new beginning in life. Also, this was Marvel trying to make Venom more of an anti-hero and moving him away from being a bad guy. That is why he is there. But also, that is why the opening pages of this book is Venom saving a woman's life from some thugs. Also showing that he is an anti-hero, not afraid to cross that borderline to get the job done if he needs to. This is a funny moment for me. Well, a lot of things in this book are funny. Reason why is because after Venom saves the lady from the thugs, she runs away because Venom is a scary looking dude. Honestly, I would be confused and run like she does if I saw someone like Venom out there out of nowhere. Something else to point out is why Venom came here, besides making the deal with Spider-Man, is because this is the city that he has supposedly grown up in. Now, Marvel knows that a well-known criminal in the world can't just leave one town and go somewhere else with a clean slate. Like, everyone knows who he is. Some police officers see him turn from Venom into Eddie Brock and quickly follow him into a hotel, since Eddie Brock was trying to find somewhere to stay. So when they catch up to him and try to take him in, of course, they can't stop this man and he leaves to find somewhere else to go. Now, we didn't pick up with Spider-Man, of course, Peter Parker, but this is Peter Parker kind of being a jerk, just flat out being a jerk. And the reason why I say that is because you have Spider-Man thinking about Venom and their deal, where he can't believe that he made a deal with Venom. Thinks that maybe he should go after Venom in San Francisco and actually bring him in because he can't believe that Venom had turned over a new leaf in life and is now trying to be a hero. Which then makes us switch over to Venom, as he is wondering what he could do in his new life. Apparently, his father lives in this town, but he hates his dad so much he wants to stay away from him. Except that is when Venom sees some homeless people getting beat up by some random men in suits who hate the idea of the homeless being in the park. So Venom steps in to stop these men from doing any harm towards the homeless. Except Spider-Man had made it to San Francisco, and the first thing he sees is Venom fighting against those men in suits and thinking that Venom has become evil again. So of course, we're seeing Spider-Man wanting to stop Venom. But of course, in the middle of the battle, you have Venom basically realize that Spider-Man has no idea what is going on here, and Spider-Man has broken their deal. So you have Spider-Man learn from Venom that the guys he is trying to protect are actually a bunch of bad guys that Venom was trying to stop. So after a few pages where you have Venom and Spider-Man working together, Spider-Man realizing that he had messed up, well, he also lost Venom. Of course, Venom got out of there. We then pick out a guy named Orwell Taylor, who is in Oregon, but watching the news report about Spider-Man and Venom being in San Francisco, and has begun talking about going after Venom. Before we can explore that, we gotta pick back up with Eddie Brock. We learned that he left with the homeless people and they're about to take him to their home so he can have somewhere to stay. This is also the moment they explain what was going on at the park. Explain that there is another guy, Roland Treese, who has been trying to kick them out of the area for months now. We don't know why just yet, and we're not going to learn about that now. Except the group has been followed by men who are in some kind of armor suits, and the suits are called diggers. Long story short, these diggers may have some connection to Roland Treese. Either way, you have Eddie Brock continue to protect the homeless group by fighting against these diggers who are here to attack their home. These diggers also come with their own sonic guns, which is a weakness to the symbiotes at this point. So Venom is having a hard time keeping up with them. Except to close on the first chapter of this book, we then see the diggers fall deeper into the underground part of San Francisco and end up in some kind of town that is literally underneath San Francisco. There are buildings down there too. But getting back into the second chapter of this book, we pick up with Venom and the pilots of the digger armor suits freaking out. They are wondering why everything down here and the people look like they are from the 1800s. Thinking that they have gone back in time, except the homeless group that was with Eddie Brock earlier reappeared in this lower level to show them that they are still in the present day. Except after all of that had happened, that is when we get the part of the story where you have Venom being able to beat down on the diggers and saving these homeless people. But he killed the men who were controlling the diggers to keep the area of the underground that is a secret getting out to the public. Now after that, this is where we learn one of the names of the homeless people of this homeless group. Of course, the homeless lives here because no one knows about this underground and they get free housing. Either way, her name is Elizabeth and she has a son named Timothy. Now, she explains how the Great Earthquake in 1906 basically sank this part of San Francisco and of course became hidden from the rest of San Francisco. Now, Venom is going to stay here until the council of these homeless people decides if Venom can stay here, since they find out that he used to be a bad guy that actually killed people. Now, don't forget that Spider-Man is still in the city of San Francisco because he is looking for Venom, since all he knows of Venom as someone who is a killer. In his mind, there is no way Venom can be a good guy now. So we see Spider-Man going to a police station, of course using their connections to help him learn more about Eddie Brock. And this is the moment where he learns that Eddie Brock's father lives in the city. And of course, that would be Carl Brock. Getting back to Venom, we learned that the homeless council basically told Venom that he is not allowed to stay with their group. That is because what Venom has done, which was mainly killing people. Most of the council said no, mainly because Reverend Rackstraw was able to make people believe that Venom would end up killing them and he is the devil. Now, after Venom left, he then begins to remember that Elizabeth mentioned that a guy named Roland Treese is trying to get rid of them. So he thought if he gets rid of Roland Treese, they will let him stay there. Now we do pick up with Spider-Man going to meet up with Carl Brock, the father of Eddie Brock. And this is Spider-Man coming to Carl Brock as Peter Parker, hoping to learn more about Eddie Brock. Except when Peter Parker says Eddie Brock's name, Carl Brock closes the door. So the story changes over to Venom, who is sneaking into the home of Roland Treese's business, hoping that he can learn why Roland Treese was trying to get rid of the homeless people. So he finds some plans that tell him that Roland is trying to build some kind of charity event project. Venom knows that there must be something else that Roland is hiding, But before he is able to deep dive into the information, that is when security forces of Roland Treese appear and they try to capture Venom for breaking into their place. But before we are able to see Venom fight against those security forces, we jump back over to Spider-Man, being Spider-Man, and trying to meet with Carl Brock again, except this time he went as Spider-Man, hoping that it will scare Carl Brock enough to talk about Eddie Brock. Now getting back to Venom, we kind of pick up after he had beaten the forces of Roland Treese security forces. But you have Venom go somewhere thinking that he is going to have some time to think about what Roland Treese could be up to, except that is when he is blasted out of nowhere. That is when we see that he was blasted by a new group that is introduced in this book, and they are called the Jury. And the leader of this group is called, or his name is Orwell Taylor, who is here to basically get revenge against Venom, because apparently Venom had killed Orwell Taylor's son. The Jury is basically a bunch of guys who are in some kind of armor suits that have some advanced tech that have weapons that can hurt Venom. Of course, that means fire and sonic weapons. Now, Orwell Taylor tells Venom that when Venom broke out of the prison known as the Vault, well, Venom kind of had ended up killing Orwell Taylor's son, and thanks to his death, it led to Orwell Taylor grabbing all of his resources and putting together the Jury as a way to capture Venom and get his revenge. Except like earlier, when Venom gets the chance to catch his breath and be able to let the suit heal up, he is able to become Venom completely and then beat up some of these guys. After he is done with that, well, that gives Venom the chance to escape so that he won't get captured. Of course, that makes Orwell Taylor mad because he wanted Venom so bad. Now, this is the story kind of telling us that Venom is going to have two enemies, one being Orwell Taylor, but the other one being Roland Treese. Reason why I say that is because we finally see Roland Treese after he finds out Venom had broke into his place and now wants to capture Venom. Then there is another page where we are reminded that Peter Parker went to meet up with Carl Brock, the father of Eddie Brock. Peter Parker went as Spider-Man hoping to scare Carl Brock to help tell him things about Eddie, except Carl Brock basically walks away without telling Spider-Man nothing. But Peter Parker is lucky because the maid, Sharon Dempsey, says she can tell Spider-Man about Eddie Brock. But before we can learn more about Eddie Brock's past, we have to switch over to Venom, who thinks that he has gotten away from the Jury, except the Jury will not stop until they have the head of Venom. So this is Marvel again telling us that they are trying to give Venom his own rogue gallery, trying to keep him close to Spider-Man comics, but at the same time move him away. Now, the Jury is actually a capable group of fighters and making it hard for Venom to get the chance to win this fight. Luckily, Venom has his ability to camouflage so that he is able to get away from the Jury before they were able to capture him. Then we can finally learn about some of the history of Eddie Brock before he had appeared in comics, where these two pages just tell us that Eddie Brock and his dad Carl Brock were never close. When the mother of Eddie Brock died, well, did a part of Carl Brock die too, and he was very distant to Eddie Brock. Even when Eddie Brock achieved greatness throughout most of his life, Carl Brock did not care. But soon as his son was labeled as a fraud thanks to his newspaper career, Carl Brock was even harder on Eddie and basically disowned him. After Spider-Man learns that, well, he leaves, but of course, this doesn't help him find Venom at all. Then another page to just tell us that Roland Treese is now going to chase after Venom for sure. Main reason why is because he's worried that Venom could ruin his plans to get rid of the homeless people who are hiding under San Francisco. Speaking of Venom, that is when you have Venom still dealing with the jury. No matter where Venom goes to, he is then confronted by agents of the jury that are hiding across the city to basically capture him, except Venom is giving them a hard time even if they have weapons that they can use that are supposed to have the weakness of Venom. Of course, Venom is overcoming these weapons and giving the jury a run for their money. Except Venom is saved by Rolling Trees, which at first makes you wonder what is going on here, because once Venom is on the helicopter and you have Rolling Trees tell Venom that he would rather work with Venom rather than fight against him, he offers Venom to be the head of his security forces. Venom says yes, thinking that it will get him close to Rolling Trees to stop Rolling Trees. So Rolling Trees takes Venom to a building that is owned by another group called the Light Foundation. Once Venom walks inside, he learns that it was a trap by Rolling Trees' right-hand man, Carlton Drake. So with the fourth issue of this series, well, we pick up where some time has passed by, and Venom is now being held in some kind of container, where we learn that Carlton Drake, who is working for the Life Foundation, actually has a purpose for Venom, not to get rid of him or kill him. It is more of taking the seeds out of Venom. Seeds are basically the children of Venom. So this was Marvel seeing how popular Carnage was and decided to make more symbiotes. The only way they will be able to actually do that is to pull the seeds out of Venom to create new symbiotes. Then the book reminds us that Spider-Man is also in San Francisco and he's still looking for Venom. Of course, he doesn't really know that Venom has been captured by Rolling Trees in the Life Foundation. He is also stopping some random crimes in the city to still be a good hero. Now, when Spider-Man goes to call Mary Jane, well, he tells us that he heard about a bunch of creatures that sound similar to symbiotes are gathering up in one place, and the Spider-Man, he should go check it out to see if it is Venom. Then we get another page that shows us that the symbiote has a way to break it and Eddie Brock out of their prison. The Sonic hurts the symbiote, but not Venom. So the symbiote thinks Eddie should leave it behind and escape from the Sonic trap they are in. But we have to switch back over to Spider-Man, because remember that Spider-Man heard about how there is an attack at the mall and there could be a symbiote that sounds like Venom, except that is when we get our first introduction to the daughter of Venom, which is Scream, a character that fans were shocked to see, but this is the Life Foundation speaking the truth about how they were making children of Venom to work for them. Getting back to Venom, we see him not really leaving the symbiote suit behind. He actually just throws his hand without the suit on it so that he can slip through the Sonic container to grab a guard and break out of it. This is where we have Venom begin to process, where it makes you think that maybe Venom is going to be able to escape from the Life Foundation. Except Venom is once again hit with some sonic weapons and he is knocked out again. The Life Foundation mentions that they were able to complete the process of the Children Venom project. Now, there is another page that is given to us to show that Elizabeth and her son Tim from the homeless group still wish Eddie Brock could stay with them. They get in an argument with the Reverend, but then we see that somebody is watching them from a distance. But getting into the battle between Spider-Man and Scream, well, we see Scream is giving Spider-Man a hard time. I don't mean like she is so tough that he might lose this battle, just that she is a new villain. It is something new that he has to handle on his own, except After the fight has been going on for a while, you have Spider-Man realize that Scream is a new symbiote, and the host is new to all of this as well, meaning that he should be able to get the upper hand, which he does, and he is able to make her run away scared. She tries to leave hoping to lose Spider-Man by going on a jet, but Spider-Man is able to sneak on the jet for a ride, hoping to see where Scream is going to. Now, I'm going to skip a few pages so that we can get into what Marvel thought would make them money down the road after this story. Because once you have Spider-Man arrive at the Light Foundation building after getting that ride on the jet Scream was on, then after he beats up some guards who he had confronted on his way deeper into the base, that is when Carlton Drake tells Spider-Man what they have done, which was pull seeds out of Venom to give them their own army of symbiotes. That is when we get introduced to their symbiotes alongside Scream, which was Agony, Phage, Riot, and Lasher. The children of Venom are going to fight against Spider-Man. Before we are able to learn more about this situation, well, you have Carlton Drake making it seem that Eddie Brock is dead. And with him being dead, Spider-Man begins to freak out because at first he begins to believe Eddie Brock is dead, except he believes that there is no way Eddie Brock had died that easily. So he tells Carlton Drake that Eddie Brock is not dead. He will come back. That is when you have a scientist tell Carlton Drake that Eddie Brock is alive and well, which makes Spider-Man happy and Drake angry. Then once Spider-Man thinks that he has a moment to relax, well, that is when you have Carlton Drake show off all of his new symbiotes to attack Spider-Man, of course, to make him realize that there are more symbiotes in the world. Don't forget that Roland Tree's main goal is to remove the homeless people from the park and find their underground city, except we learn that his reasoning is because there's a huge amount of gold somewhere down there and the homeless people are standing in his way. But getting back to the star of the book, which is Eddie Brock, because remember, the Life Foundation thinks Eddie Brock is knocked out, except that is when Eddie Brock wakes up and takes out these guards, so that he is able to start looking for his second half, which of course means the symbiote that is being held in a different part of the building. Now getting back to Spider-Man, where we see Spider-Man fighting against the new symbiote that the Life Foundation had made. But this is also the moment where Spider-Man realizes that these new guys are not able to fight against him because they are all new to this. Just like Scream was earlier, these new symbiotes keep leaving themselves open and giving him the chance to be able to beat them down. Except this is the moment, and this is a funny moment as well, where you have Eddie Brock appear and think that because they are the children of the Venom suit, the new symbiotes will listen to him, but they don't, and they all punch him in the face. Except we had to switch back over to the homeless group from earlier because the council are freaking out because they know Roland Treese is about to try to break into their city. Elizabeth from earlier states that they should have kept Venom around to protect them, but we then have to switch back over to Spider-Man and Eddie Brock after Eddie Brock had this funny moment. You have the two of them realize that Eddie Brock needs the Venom suit to give them a better chance to get out of here, except for Spider-Man, he can't believe that he is going to help Eddie Brock get the Venom suit back and let him be Venom. But of course, he does not have a choice here. He needs Venom to make it out of here. This leads into the random moment where Marvel makes it seem that the new symbiotes are going to be dead after this book. Of course, we know that is not true because they constantly come back over and over again. What I mean is that once Eddie Brock is able to become Venom once again, Venom and Spider-Man find some kind of ray that alters the age of the symbiotes, basically making them grow old. Now, Venom wants to use it. Of course, Spider-Man doesn't because there could be a chance that the host of the new symbiotes could die as well. Except Venom doesn't really give Spider-Man time to actually think about it, because once the symbiotes are all in the room, Venom hits the symbiotes with the ray to mature them and kill the symbiotes for now. They will come back again. Spider-Man hates Venom even more now after he did that, because he could have killed their hosts. Now, Carlton Drake sees what is happening and decides that he should activate some kind of self-destruct bomb that was placed in the building to blow up the place. Now, Spider-Man and Venom are both trying to escape, except when Spider-Man turns around, Venom is missing. But Spider-Man has no choice but to leave and get out of there. The place blows up and we come to find out that Venom did make it out. He just made some random worker drive him back to San Francisco because he knows that Roland Treese is about to do something to the homeless group and he has to save them. Now, in the last chapter of the book, we see some time has passed by and we catch up with Carlton Drake hiding out in some mansion, thinking that he will be safe from Venom. But of course, Venom took all of them out and he was able to break into the mansion and confront Carlton Drake. With that happening, we get a ton of a few pages where you have Carlton Drake trying to get away from Venom because he knows that he doesn't stand a chance against Venom. Except Venom is able to finally corner him and make Carlton Drake finally tell him and us why Roland Treese is trying to have those homeless people gone. Now, this is me just giving y'all a quick rundown because we know Roland Treese wants some treasure down in the city the homeless people live in, starting with the fact that in 1906, the same year of the earthquake, some people came here with a huge amount of gold, hoping to overthrow the government. Of course, that did not happen because of the earthquake and the gold was buried with the city. With that being said, the gold technically belongs to the people since they live in that underground city, and the gold is in the city somewhere. Roland Treese had basically set bombs that will go off only underground and kill off the homeless people so Roland Treese can get the gold. And so that makes Venom hurry to go stop Roland Treese, knowing that those bombs are going to go off very soon. Except he is stopped by Spider-Man, and this fight is not no long out fight. Venom stops Spider-Man easily and tells him what is going on, and he needs to help Venom. Spider-Man is confused that Venom is asking for help, but knows it must be serious. This leads into Spider-Man teaming up with Venom, and we see them go after Roland Treese. That then gives us a few pages of the two of them working together to stop Roland Treese and stopping the diggers as well. This even includes the bombs that Roland Treese had planted to kill the homeless people. But while fighting against Roland Treese, this is Spider-Man kind of thinking that Eddie Brock is actually a good person now, and maybe he was wrong to come here and cause Venom problems throughout this story. Really, when Venom saves Roland Treese from certain death, that really helps Spider-Man realize, okay, Venom is maybe not a bad guy, and he had overreacted when it came to Venom. Now, once the fighting is done, Spider-Man still thinks that he needs to take Venom into custody, but of course, Venom is gone, which then makes Spider-Man leave as well and call up Mary Jane to tell her that he is coming home, and he is like, maybe Venom is a good guy now. Mary Jane gives him a hard time as well because she is like, yeah, it was clear that Venom is a good guy now. The book ends with Venom going back to the homeless group that lives underground, and you have the council change their mind on Venom and think that maybe he should be allowed to stay there since this man was able to stop Roland Treese, and this is the moment you have Venom declare that he is not going to betray their trust, and he will do everything in his power to protect them from any harm that could come their way in the future, which of course ends the book on that note. So with that being said, that is the end of today's video. So guys, if you did like today's comic book video, please hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoy today's video.